you trying to make bigger profits in your small business? Like many of us, I'm sure you're feeling it. Business is hard. And now more than ever, you need to have a plan to help your business not just survive, but thrive. I'm Marcia. I'm a profit and business strategist on a mission. I've helped tons of small business owners to establish and implement a tangible plan that guarantees increased profitability and guides your growth. I'd like to share some strategies that I've earned and learned on today's Profit with a Plan podcast. I'm really excited to have a dear friend of mine as guest today, Sarah Michael. Sarah's known as the expert of feminine leadership, and she is the founder of Sparkling Results. Sarah works with women leaders to lead their lives and careers powerfully without being pushy. Sarah supports clients to sell themselves, their ideas, projects, and results in life and in business by crafting conversations for any context that sets them up for success and leaves the other person feeling motivated instead of discouraged. She provides guidance to articulate esoteric and hard to describe ideas and tangible results in a way that people get. Sarah created Feminine Sales Power, the Selling Yourself in Life and Business program, out of her own experience of learning how to lead and communicate in a way that gets results while ensuring the experience of getting those results is good for all that are involved. Sarah has dedicated to up-leveling women leaders in life and the career they love. Wow, that's amazing, Sarah. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you, Marcia. I'm so happy to be here. Welcome.
You're welcome. I know, you're used to doing your own things all the time as well. So you get used to it.
It's the beginning. I should say this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is totally conversational. So it's wonderful. I always joke with people, hey, if the dog comes barking in, it's because we're working out of our homes these days and trying to make things look and work and play and still be professional along the way. So excited. So talk to me about how sales is feminine. We talked about that a little bit before we jumped online, and I'd love to have the listeners really get a hang of that.
Yeah. Well, the way I look at it is, if you look at the sales conversation, the consultative model that's really been how we've sold things for millennia, right? For as like, what do you need? What do I got? Does it fit? Great. That assessment, right? With more heart is then, and with more compassion and with a little more, kind of less heavy sales in the coaching industry, in the personal development industry for sure. And when you look at it, all those questions, all that exploration, the second part about what are the goals are sometimes called the possibility section, because it's about what's possible once you solve the problem. Possibility is inherently feminine. And I'll pause here just to say, when I say feminine or masculine, it's the energies or sides that we each, regardless of gender, carry. So we both, whether a woman or a man or whatever you identify, and it's really, we all have a mix and a cocktail of both masculine and feminine energies and powers and sides in us. So when I say that, a man can bring that kind of possibility, a woman can bring the possibility, possibility is feminine because it's about what could be. And that's more of that expansive space that is the feminine. And when you look at the sales conversation, like 80% of it are feminine forms of power, like possibility, like exploration, like connection. We're looking to get connected with people. Connection is inherently feminine. It's when you look at the feminine survival instincts, that's the thing. The feminine is so afraid of losing. If we disconnect, we'd end up alone and potentially dead. So connection, huge value on connection. And then 20% is masculine, the time at the end, if it's a fit, when you make the offer, that's what I would call the high masculine. You are asking a direct question that is, designed to get you an answer. But also the questions you ask throughout, the entire conversation, those are what I call a masculine structure to support feminine flow. So, and you want that in anything you do. And the sales conversation is just a great kind of distillation of a lot of what I teach is you have this masculine structure. And so you're not scrambling for questions, but are you Are you looking at the questions, one by one and being really rigid? No, that would be much more masculine. It's there if you need it and you can flow within it. So that's why I say that. Yeah.
Wow, that's so unique in the outlook of it. Many of us know we're doing it if we're doing it well. Many
Right.
of us know we're doing it and we're feeling it, but we haven't necessarily categorized it as feminine or masculine sides. But in the English language, there's really not a feminine and a masculine, but many of the other international languages out there, there's a
True.
feminine and a masculine on it.
True.
But we don't think that way. So that's fantastic that you put it in this context. And now it's like, oh, okay, I should be having this conversation with my sales client or potential client. I should be having a conversation instead of driving those hard questions that would be a little bit towards the
Right.
end of
That
the
would
program.
start to feel more rigid and masculine and, oh, they have an agenda and, yeah, yeah.
The agenda.
One thing I reinforce with clients is y'all like, well, if you know the person ahead of time, ahead of a sales conversation or whatever they say to you ahead, like until it's said on the call, it is not on the record. You cannot include it. You need to get them to say it in that moment. And that's where I think the structure supports the flow, because the common mistake is either going all hard masculine or high masculine, like we just talked about, or overcorrecting and going all high feminine, which is just a bunch of space. And you're going to talk about what they need a lot. You might go 2 hours, but you're probably not going to get the information you need to make a powerful enough offer to elicit the yes, because it's all flow. Like when women tell me, and I'll use this because I don't hear this from men, but maybe right, because it's not quite as deep or ingrained or instinctive is really is, oh well, I just flow in my feminine. And I'm like, so you're making $1,000 a month, like
You're not closing any sales,
and you're all over the place. You're often running late because you don't have a calendar structure. So you forget about deadlines and you're then in what's major high masculine mode because you're like, right, like trying to get the thing out. And my whole thing is you have masculine structures to support feminine flow. And then that never happens. People think I'm way busier than I am. Because I'm careful about my calendar and I'm not just like open for, come one, come all. I have no boundaries around that. But, no, Tuesday's closed. Does that mean I'm on the phone for 10 hours? No, but it's very full and I'm not adding anymore because I want buffer time so I can play. Yeah.
I like this. So it is a pairing of the masculine and the feminine side that keep us in a successful zone, because nobody likes the used car salesman. Hey, Mr.
Right.
Jones, what can I do to get you into this car today? Kind of thing.
Right.
And it's not the woo-woo of just having a conversation and never getting to the sale. Right. So I'm loving this. Okay. So how do we put this into our own practices? So now that we're aware of the femininity and the masculine sides of the sales conversation, how do we put this into our own sales process so it works a little better and we're not feeling, as you say, pushy?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do for that is, well, first of all, give yourself enough time. If you don't if you're selling high ticket and you're trying to do it within like less than 20, 30 minutes, like it's really hard. Part of what takes for, what high ticket takes is what I just porch time. If you know that expression, it's a Southern expression where when dating and courting, the man would come over and spend time on the front porch. So it was porch time and he'd put in porch time. So high ticket sales require a little porch time, y'all. And you need to be, this is an hour, really, like any less, you'll probably be like, oh crap, I went over. So give yourself enough time, because if you don't have enough time, that's where we're going to have to drive the questions and cut you off mid-sentence because we need to get on the next question because time's ticking.
Fair enough. So I would assume this sales conversation is not the first conversation that you're having with them? You're going through some sort of a cadence before you get to this opportunity. Or is it, even if you're not selling high ticket, but maybe you're selling something in between, anybody can sell a $47 whatever,
Right.
but if you're getting in somewhere in between, I would assume, again, this sales conversation doesn't occur on the first meeting, or does it?
No, not necessarily. Like that's where, different ways people come into your world, right? And there may be somebody who, heard about you or found you on social media or found your website and devoured, some content and signs up to have a consultation with you, have a sales conversation with you. That, so it can be, but usually though, no. Usually where you're going to have either some more synchronous where like we meet at even a virtual networking event these days, or a networking event hopefully soon, and or if there's some sort of online conversation where they saw some of your content, maybe interacted in the comments, or you interacted in a post of theirs, so some sort of pre conversation. But I do definitely see there's, in terms of actual verbal conversations one-on-one we can have, is there are 7 essential money making conversations. That's my
Ooh,
thing. Yeah,
okay.
because each of the conversations, if it's the initial conversation like we just met, or the connection conversation where we met, or maybe we haven't talked in a while and we're catching up or getting to know each other.
Mhm.
What I call the turning a friendly conversation into a sales conversation. There's a way to do that without it
Mm,
getting weird, and we can
yeah.
talk about that. And then I split up the sales conversation into also the offer conversation, because it's its own thing. And I find what a lot of people are doing, regardless of price point, is they're doing the whole sales consultation model pretty well, but then at the end they do a price quote and it's
Oh,
7 hours and it's $3,000. Oops. Like, that's where I will often say sales is leadership, because you got to let them know through the questions you ask, but also the offer, or even your marketing, really, that you know the way. I know where we're going. I've got you. I mean, that's like half of what people buy is you know what the heck you're doing, right? So each of those money making conversations, there's a structure that you can light structure just enough so you don't go off the rails. So you can elicit some information from them to sort in or out. Are you a potential client now or in the future? And without it getting weird, without the person
so,
being like, whoa,
so I
weird.
like that. It's a cadence. It's
Yeah.
it's an introduction conversation. It's the next conversation. And sales doesn't always mean write me a check if I have that clear understanding. It's I'm moving you to the next step, the
Right.
next conversation, and those kind of things. Is that
Right.
pretty accurate?
Yes. I mean, there's conversion points
Mm,
along the way where they're saying yes to this, or they're commenting on something, and then they're saying up to yes to your webinar, and then they're signing up to talk with you.
mm,
Then they're signing up to work with you potentially. But yeah,
got it.
I don't think there's really less than 4 online or off, unless you've really got a hot one. Maybe.
Well, or
But
or you're or
uh,
chances are you don't have a hot one and you're just being too pushy with that.
well, right, right. And that's where, this so much, and I think, so many entrepreneurs, definitely more in the personal development coaching space, very intuitive. And what I think happens is we get so darn excited because we just met somebody that we can totally help. And it's like they have this neon sign on their forehead. And I've definitely experienced it. I just had enough kind of just enough, especially at the beginning, just enough knowledge at the beginning to know that the thing to do was not talk about my work. It was to ask
Mm,
questions. But what a lot of people do is they level jump and they intuitively sense it, level jump and start talking about their program, start talking about their services in a way that has the other person be like, whoa, they just went into sales mode. They just got a little
yeah,
pushy, and it feels pushy, but it's
yeah.
really just sales mode. But they feel it, and suddenly they're like, wait, how did we get here? Because remember, they haven't connected the dot that we can help them yet. We're the only one who is on that page. Yeah.
That's funny. I know I've experienced. I'm sure the listeners have all experienced. I'll throw my name into the hat. I mean, I've done that where you're like, oh, yes, I can do that. And then you just like cut right to the chase and you start going, here's all the features and benefits and here's all the ways to do it. And you get all excited and the person goes, whoa.
Yeah.
And had I had slowed down,
Yeah.
had I had talked to them more, and like you just said, which was the big aha, getting them to the realization that I can help solve their problem and together we can do some great things,
Yeah.
then they would have bought. But instead, I
Right.
pounced on them like a
Great.
cat.
I use that expression. Yeah, I use that expression like, without pouncing on people, because that's what happens. We pounce. And pouncing never feels good. I've been pounced on myself.
Of course, we all have. I mean, my
Yeah,
goodness.
exactly.
Yeah. I mean, and so that's the side. Okay, it sounds like that we have to get into that cadence. We have to control our emotions a little bit. We have to sense what the other party is feeling and hearing, and have they had that aha or the understanding that yes, this is a possible solution before you can start doing the sales and having that conversation. And if I have this correctly, we do it through questions, right?
100%.
Love
Whether the
it.
initial conversation, connection conversation, sales conversation, or even turning a friendly conversation into a sales conversation is a question. It's yeah, and it's a very direct but spacious. It's essentially, hey, you've said some things and I can hear, I can help you, but I would need to know more. That's the space. But I'd still need to know more. So it's an invitation to set up a proper, in context, we both know what we're doing here. Sales conversation. Yeah.
That sounds good. And the thing that just popped up into my mind when you said that is when you say, I need to know more. What if they're not comfortable telling you more at that point? They haven't like trusted you enough to say that. Do you take a step back? I mean, are there any, dancing
Well,
moves that you can do to
generally I
encourage
advise,
them?
unless, weird circumstances, it's really just a question. And part of the question is, we'll set up a time in the next couple days to do
Hmm.
that. So and honestly, me or my clients, we've never heard a no to that question ever. Because it's direct and spacious, and yeah, it really works. And people are, oh, you think you can help me? They might not have seen it 2 minutes ago, but now you connected the dot. They always want to explore. Would you,
Right.
do you want to explore that deeper? I would need to know more.
Hmm.
We can
And
set
then
up a
that's when
time
you
for
go into the discovery, right?
right. And then we set something up for later, and then that's the discovery or sales conversation proper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's one piece that gets you to that point though, before you can ask the question to,
Oh yeah.
like I've like I see it, it's clear as day because I'm in the business and you're not seeing it yet. What kind of questions can you ask, or how can you build that trust enough where they're going to want to give it to you?
Right.
As an example, I used to be in the financial services world, and so the conversation would come up, and then I'd need to know more, of their business, and they go, "Oh, I'm not ready to tell you that yet." So, what is that kind of bridge that you could do to get somebody to open up more?
Yeah, what I do there is something I call a pointed question.
Hmm.
It's different from a leading question. So a leading question is designed to get a specific answer, like period, right? A pointed question is designed to get a specific answer if it's there. So leading question example, do you want to have a great fourth quarter? How do you say no to that? Right?
Sure.
Right, right. So you gotta go there versus oh, I always hear stories about how people navigate the cash flow roller coaster. How's it been for you? And for you or me, like in the work we do, you're gonna get an earful if the
Hmm.
problem is there. If there is something you could help with, you're gonna
Right.
get an earful. If they're not struggling with the roller coaster, oh yeah, that was a thing at the beginning, but not so much anymore. Like, thankfully, I'm really psyched about it. And great, how's the weather? You just move on. It's
Gotcha.
you drop it like a lead balloon in that. But the pointed question, they will just talk, and you kind of keep them talking. And for about 20 minutes is my thing, because you do say, I hear you saying, part of the turning a friendly into a sales conversation. I hear you saying, because you want them to, really know that you're not like putting it on them, but reflecting what you're hearing. And when you're talking, like we've been going for like what, 20 minutes now, like it feels like 3 minutes, feels like right, if like the time sort of collapses when you're in the moment. So I say 20 minutes at least, really, um of them really just talking about the problem in this kind of light way, because when you say, I hear you saying several things that I can help with, which is the first part of it, um they need to kind of cock their head and be like, yeah,
I
I've been
did
talking
say
a
that.
while. I've been talking a while.
I
Right.
did.
But if it's only
Yeah.
been like 10 minutes, they're going to be like, wait a minute, I have, you know what I
Mm.
mean? Maybe, and they're going to be on the fence. So they're already basically talking about the problem. And so when you say that and move them in, so it's about that pointed question. To answer your question, is figuring out what that pointed question is for any individual business.
Love that. So, and I think that these are things that you know we've all gone through a sales program, right? Where you learn how to, ask the questions, open ended, get them to the yes and do that kind of stuff. But this is different.
Yeah.
This is really a conversation, which leads back to why it's a feminine conversation leading to the masculine sales side, because it's now making so much more sense that you're having a conversation with someone, getting them to explain what's going on in a way that they feel comfortable and open up to you, right? I mean, that's the whole thing, is getting them to open up.
Yep, exactly. And creating that depth of trust, that depth of connection, and that depth of conversation. That's where the masculine structure of the sales questions tailored to you and your ideal buyer are really important. And
Mm.
something I always work with clients on, because often they aren't customized, or it's not
Very
enough.
hard.
It can be, and it's hard to do on your own. It's definitely helpful to have another set of eyes. Um, but that will create the depth of connection and the depth of conversation that then can have a high ticket sale convert in an hour. You get their credit card and it's
Wow.
just done. And the thing is, you mentioned like lower ticket. The thing with everything I teach is they are solid, good business. Okay. For high ticket, it's just crucial. If you don't have it, it's really going to be hard.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're selling $100 thing, this works just as well, if not easier, because it's not a multi-$1,000 offer, and there's just going to be a lot more people that can, I'll pay for that, right?
Sure.
It doesn't become like an investment decision.
Right. And I think that's it. I mean, here I'm a poker player, and I've been playing poker a lot lately because there's in between, and I got the stupid app on my phone, and I got called out the other day because I bet in, and then all of a sudden he bet more, and I thought, shit, I don't have the hand, and I'm like, all right, take it. And so what does he do? He calls me out in the chat saying, you're a coward. And I'm like, I am. I was. In poker, if you go, you got to keep going. You can't show that you're like that. And it really has been sitting on my mind for the last 2 days. So I think it is when you reach a certain number, whether it's 100 to multi-thousands or whatever
Right.
it is. And why I bring up this question is that people have a comfort zone.
Yeah.
They feel like, let me ask my wife, or let me ask my partner. There's that number, that we get to. And I think that's an easy back out that they lean on, because they start feeling, ooh, this is an uncomfortable number. And especially in high ticket offers where there is a commitment of money, as well as often time for something. How do you address that? I mean, I think it's where you warm them up and you build that trust and so on, but there's
That's
got
the
to be
porch
some
time.
skill to it.
That's the porch time. That's the full
Porch time, I
hour,
love that.
and really listening on what I call, like, it's really like 5 levels. So you're asking questions that they've never been asked before,
Ooh,
potentially.
like
Or
what?
it depends. It's so intuitive. You'll be, it won't be the first 2 questions. It'll be
Of
like
course.
a third of the way through, half of the way through, this question will occur to you. And that is if you're familiar with, well, the idea that we're all connected, kind of that spiritual philosophy that we're all connected. So taking that a little deeper, the next step or two with that is, since that's the case, like you're listening, Marcia, is pulling from me what needs to be said, what you need to hear. And questions will occur to us that people need to be asked. And the thing is to trust yourself and oh, well, it's not on my script. That's okay. That's why this isn't a rigid thing, but we want enough so you get to the point where the intuition has had enough information that they can see this profound question. One time for me, it was, and maybe more than one time for me, it's something along the lines of somewhere in their pain or their struggle part. The first part is like, so what happened to you during your childhood
Ooh.
that caused you to, or maybe I'll just like drop it, like, because I don't even want to name what I'm hearing them say, right? Like, but what happened during childhood? And there's always something,
Hmm.
even from minor, just, I had a client once and she was so, from when she was 6 that she didn't have the right parts to pee standing up, but
Oh,
she'd taken it to this like girls can't do, like this crazy level because she was 6 or whatever, to actual abuse and horrible, horrible things that go on in families, right? So, hearing this limiting belief, hearing the fear, and just saying, so what happened to you? Because most people will know.
hmm. That's
Yeah.
that's deep. I don't know that many salespeople would want to go down that path, but that's why they're salespeople, right? And
Right.
not necessarily people that want to do business with them. I think
Right.
that's the difference. Is you want to make a relationship with this person, and it's not necessarily what happened back when you were 6, but I
Right.
mean there could be something that's stopping them, and you can sense that,
Right.
and you can bring that question out to have them verbalize it and go, well, you know what? I actually, our guarantee solves that problem, or our program will get you through that phase that you kept hitting the wall with before. And you can, by asking them, you can get to those solutions that you provide, right?
Totally. Exactly. And you'll start to see how your work can help them.
Mm.
But to what you just said a minute ago was like, but they feel seen and heard. And depending on what business you're in, you might not ask that question, but I mean, I could see that for a copywriter. I could see that for a financial planner. And maybe not what happened to you in childhood, but like, is there, do you have some past history where that was a problem? You know what I mean? Would be a similar question that's just a little more buttoned up, a little more professionalized. And but mostly just allowing your intuition, allowing your brain / intuition to be like, you should ask this,
Mm.
it might be the first time they connect that together. And because ideally so the masculine structure, the supports feminine flow, the depth of questions, the depth of connection, ideally through this conversation, you are helping them have like these not even mini major epiphanies, like, oh, because often with my client, they're chasing more and more leads because they sell actually pretty well. They haven't had this perspective, which you as a great salesperson was kind of like, whoa, this is different, right? So they're doing pretty well, but they're chasing more and more because there's a logic in, if they just had more sales conversations, they'd make more money because they're pretty
Right.
good at it. And my whole thing is like, that's the hard, like the lead part is the hardest for all, even 7-figure businesses. It is the stickiest, it changes. So let's just get as many clients from what you're already doing. And so let's get even better at sales. That's been my own
Right.
journey. And so ideally that's, they're having these little mini epiphanies like, whoa, I've been chasing leads and I just need to get better at sales.
Yes. Yes.
Or, oh, I
There
haven't been managing my money, go on.
there are really three things. I had this aha the other day. There's really only three things to your business. And the one is, lead generation or marketing, or getting people to you in one way, shape, or form, or going out to get them. The second part of it is super value, which is what we're talking about, sales. You have to be able to close the deal. And then the third part of the business is growth. So that becomes, how do you have more of you? What are the avenues? What are the different
I
things that
can
you're going to do to scale your business?
Mhm.
But considering that 30%, 33% of the business tripod is sales.
Yeah,
So why not work on something that you can be really good at and then build on the others? Now,
and
if
you
you
can
can't do all
control it.
three, you're in trouble.
Right.
But building on something as simple as, how do I convert more people that I'm talking to? How do I increase the conversion? Then you don't need, like you said, as many leads.
Yeah.
You just have more sales, better sales,
Right.
and deeper sales with people who, as everybody says, know, like, and trust you. They're not going to know you until you have a conversation with them or share with what you do. They're not going to like you unless you connect, like we're
Yeah.
talking about here.
Right. Right.
And they're not going to trust you to give you their money until you've proved to them you can solve their problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. And one of my sayings, because I've taken that a little deeper, is yes, the know, like, and trust is awesome. And I think it's more about like, you know, trust, get, and buy. Like, because like if they like you and trust you, but like if they like you, they usually trust you. If they like you, they get you. Like
Ah,
that's like they get you. They think you're cool, or they get your quirky brilliance, as I call it. They are so much more likely to buy.
mm. And
When
it's
was the
all
last
done
time
through the connection. It's all
right? And
done
it's
through
all
the
done through the
connection. And the
connection.
only way you can connect is if you show that you're genuinely interested in them by asking those questions that you just did, and that you can obviously solve the problem. But I mean, by people just want to be heard, they want to be felt and understood. So you're
That's
really
so.
bringing that out in these conversations. And I love this. This
Yeah.
is so valuable.
Thank
And
you.
it's greatly missed
Yeah.
in many of the conversations that are out there.
Yeah.
Whether it's buying a new car, or getting some help in your business, or building a relationship with your banker. I mean, there's just, it's often so missed because they go right for the sale. They go right to the masculine side and go, here's our features and benefits. Here's how I
Yep.
can help you. What can I do to get you into this car today?
Yep. 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 And
And
perceiving people as transactions, like, oh, you're not buying today, like kind of you're dead to me, versus like build a freaking relationship. I
yeah,
can't tell you how many people have come back around after I've built a deep relationship with them. But, that was 3 years ago when, we were in touch for 18 months, right? We haven't been, but Sarah, I'm ready to buy, I got money like allocated. Let's go. Sail the next
yep,
day.
they had to do a shift. And they
Yep.
probably realized that they absolutely needed to change this.
Yep.
And this is something that I think the best salespeople, who are going to build relationships and transform, and not that one and done transaction. So if you want to be with anybody for any length of time, it's all around the relationship. Just like the dating pool. I know they say this all the time. I'm not experiencing it myself, but you don't go up to the bar and find the guy and go, "Hey, will you marry me today?" You build that relationship, right?
Um, yes, no, you fully built that relationship, and you try not to pounce, right? You try not to level jump. Um, and yeah, so because pouncing just scares them away. I am kind of in the middle of that. I'm trying not to pounce.
Don't pounce. Don't pounce.
It's
Give
never
it time, right? And
exactly.
and not forever, but the time the buyer needs to feel comfortable with the decision. I love this.
And space. It doesn't even have to be
Yes,
time. And
space.
space is a
That's good.
beingness. Space is a lack of pressure. Space is just a breath. And we got time, and like we're
No
not
pressure, no
right,
pushiness. Love
right.
that.
Yeah.
Good ahas here today,
Thank
Sarah.
you.
Gosh, this is really valuable in a time that I know everybody needs it, because, if you're not selling, you've got a hobby. Um, so where can listeners find out more about you?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Couple places you can check out my website, which is sparklingresultscoaching.com. And then I have a lovely free gift that is the 7 essential money making conversation flow chart that details out all 7 of those conversations with your main objectives and which is more masculine, and then kind of your way of being, like, what do you need to accomplish in this conversation, and kind of who are you being during that conversation, and it details all those out. And you can get that at sparklingresultscoaching.com/flowchart.
Love it. Thank you very much. I know that's a valuable thing that will get people thinking about how they want to proceed with the sales conversation in that feminine and masculine way. So love it.
Thank you.
Love it. Awesome. Well, listeners, I hope you found some really valuable ideas to put into your business that will help your business be more profitable. I know that these 7 steps will be just amazing for you. So considering what's happened to businesses over the past year and more now, it's ever important to create your own profit plan so that you too can have a thriving business. To further help my listeners, I've put together 6 tips that will help you improve your profitability right now. You can pick up those tips on my website at trajectorybiz.com, and the links will be in the podcast notes. As always, we'd love to hear any questions, feedback, or even ideas for shows. Hit us up with the comments, and Sarah and I will both respond to them. And don't forget to subscribe today so you can get on and hear about next week's podcast. As always, you can catch Profit with a Plan on any of your favorite podcast players, and we're looking forward to more great profitable information on next week's show. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thanks, Sarah.